MP Zakir's absence keeps Segirinya in jail. We have the story in our bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Zakir, but first are the headlines. Security on the spot again over MP Sewanyana's rearrest. Madagascar president urges tougher action on climate change. And in our sports today, Metro summons 3 more KCCA players for Uganda Cranes duty. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, the absence of Mityana Municipality Member of Parliament Francis Zakir has caused his Kawempe North counterpart Mohamed Segirinya to stay in jail longer days after he was granted bail. We have more on this report. Mr. Zakir, who is currently out of the country, committed himself to stand for Mr. Segirinya, who is facing charges of murder, attempted murder, and aiding and abetting terrorism. Yesterday, on Thursday, he was not available to append his signature on the release form such that Segirinya can gain temporary freedom. Segirinya was jointly arrested with Machindia West MP Alan Sewanyana on September 8, 2021 and taken to Masaka Magistrates Court on charges of murder, attempted murder, and terrorism arising from the recent spate of killings of people using machetes in Greater Masaka sub-region. They were remanded to Chigo Government Prison, but since the court lacked jurisdiction to try the offences, they had to seek bail before the High Court, which was granted by Justice Victoria Nachintu Katamba on September 20th, 2021, on presumption that they are still innocent until proven guilty. As part of the bail conditions, however, the judge directed each of the legislators to pay a 20 million shillings cash bail and ordered their sureties to execute a bond form of 100 million shillings, not cash. They were also instructed to surrender their passports to the International Crimes Division of the High Court, where they should be reporting twice every month and barred from participating in any rhetoric that may cause public excitement. Subsequently, Sewanyana and Segirinya appeared via a Zoom link connecting from court to Chigo prison, where they were directed to sign in the presence of the registrar before the sureties can also sign physically in court. Mr. Segirinya's lead lawyer, the Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, said they will file an application to substitute Zakir, who was reported to be out of the country. Mr. Lukwago said that they have 2 other MPs, including Mityana woman MP Joyce Bagala, with whom they want court to allow them to substitute Zakir and be considered as his surety. The prosecution alleges that the Segirinya and Sewanyana physically participated and connived with other people to execute the murders in Greater Masaka around the month of July and August 2021. According to the prosecution, the killings were made with intent to intimidate the public for political, religious, social, or economic gains. However, the MPs denied the charges. Moving on in our top story, security has again come under the spotlight over the manner in which Machindia West Member of Parliament Alan Sewanyana was rearrested shortly after release from Chigo prison on Thursday. Now, Sewanyana, who is battling charges related to the recent spate of murders in Masaka, where over 25 people were killed in 1 month, was on Thursday afternoon finally released on bail, but his freedom was short-lived after security rearrested him as he left prison. We have more.
In a dramatic scene at the Chigo prison exit, as the opposition legislator walked out, a Toyota Hiace van, commonly referred to as drone, intercepted him, and operatives from Joint Anti-Terrorism Task Force jumped out and arrested Sewanyana. It was a moment of despair for the legislator's relatives and supporters waiting near the prison, whose only chance at bonding with their loved one ended at seeing him walk out of the prison gate only to be rearrested. However, UPDF spokesperson Brigadier Flavia Biokwaso confirmed the army had arrested Sewanyana, whom she said is facing fresh charges. The army spokesperson, however, dismissed as non-true reports that the opposition legislator had been kidnapped. Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, who is also Sewanyana's lawyer, said his brutal arrest has rendered the earlier court order for his release useless. National Unity Platform leader Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, referred security to the recent address on human rights by President Museveni. Last month, President Museveni scolded security forces for using excessive violence during their operations, especially in the arrest of suspects.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, moving on, Uganda has received a total of 655,053 more doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, 153,900 doses from Belgium, and 501,153 doses France through the COVAX facility sharing arrangement to support its COVID-19 vaccination campaign. We have more.
The State Minister for Primary Health Care, Mrs. Margaret Muhanga, who received the vaccines from the two countries' ambassadors to Uganda at the National Medical Stores on Thursday, said they will mainly be used to inoculate priority groups waiting for their second dose. She said that to date Uganda has received a total of 2,153,140 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, 300,000 doses of Sinovac and 64,780 of the Moderna vaccine, 1,067,427 doses of Pfizer, and now 6,500, 5,053 additional doses of AstraZeneca to support the massive COVID-19 vaccination exercise. Mrs. Muhanga said the ministry is set to unveil a mass vaccination campaign against COVID-19 across the country starting September 27th to October 8 in order to deploy the vaccine stocks that have been received this month. The French ambassador Jules Amanda Anyombosu said the consignment to Uganda was a part of the French donation of 10 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to the African Union. The Belgian ambassador Rudi Verstraeten said the 1,053,900 doses are part of the 34,480 vaccine jabs Belgium plans to donate to Uganda to contribute to stepping up the vaccination campaign for the teachers and reopening schools.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with our international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, the president of Madagascar branded current efforts to fight climate change lax and called for urgent and coordinated world response during his address to the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Wednesday.
The south of the Indian Ocean nation of Madagascar is currently in the grip of a severe drought, threatening some 400,000 people with starvation. The crisis is widely said to be linked to man-made climate change. President Andry Rajoelina told the UN General Assembly that in the fight against climate change, all efforts will be in vain if the implementation of measures and sanctions to stop climate change continue to be lax. Madagascar finds itself a victim of climate change. There are recurrent waves of drought in the south of the country. The water sources dry up and all the means of subsistence become almost impossible. Ghanaian President Nana Addo Akufo also spoke to the UN, highlighting the economic chaos created by the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa and calling for greater funding for global health systems.
Moving on, in our international news, the president of Namibia's National Unity Democratic Organization, ESTA, said that the opposition parties and many of the affected parties are rejecting the genocide deal because it ends the preparations be handed out through a series of development projects and initiatives instead of restitution that directly focuses on the descendants of the affected communities. We have more on this report. Several hundred people staged a protest outside Parliament in Namibia on Tuesday, where an agreement by Germany acknowledging it committed genocide during its colonial occupation was due to debated. Around 400 chanting and placard-carrying, mainly opposition activists, marched to the Parliament building in Windhoek to protest against the agreement penned earlier this year between government and Germany. Germany in May acknowledged it had committed genocide in colonial-era Namibia and promised €1 billion in financial support to descendants of the victims. Activists have rejected the offer as insufficient, with placards reading "Say no to the fake genocide deal. The blood of our ancestors was not in vain. And proper reparation now." Inside the National Assembly, Defense Minister Frans Kapofi read a statement on his intention to table the agreement, describing it as an achievement of some measure to get the Federal Republic of Germany accepting responsibility for the genocide. The agreement was a result of more than 5 years of negotiations between the two countries over events in the territory held by Berlin from 1884 to 1915. German colonial settlers killed tens of thousands of indigenous Herero and Nama people in 1904 to 1908 massacres labeled by historians as the first genocide of the 20th century. Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, thousands of people demonstrated in Mali's capital on Wednesday, according to journalists, backing the nation's military rulers and protesting perceived foreign meddling in the Sahel state. Now, the protest comes as military strongman Colonel Assimi Goïta faces growing pressure from European powers to re-announce a possible deal with Russian private security firm Wagner. We have more.
Former colonial power France, which has thousands of troops in Mali, warned against the deal after reports Mali was close to hiring 1,000 Wagner paramilitaries surfaced this month. French Defense Minister Florence Parly said this week that the government will not be able to cohabit with mercenaries. Germany, which also has troops in the war-torn nation of 19 million, said it would reconsider its deployment should Mali strike a deal with Wagner. And on Wednesday, Estonia's defense minister Kalle Laanet told Vika Radio, a state radio station there, that if Mali reached a deal with Wagner, the Estonian contingent would leave. They have about 100 soldiers there. One police official, who asked to remain anonymous, said around 3,000 people had turned out for the Wednesday's rally in the capital Bamako. Sidiki Koyate, spokesperson for the group that staged the protest, said France's military intervention in Mali had failed.
Moving on, a unique medieval scroll is going on display for the first time in Jerusalem at the Israel Museum. Now, the scroll, about 11 meters long, is a one-of-a-kind illustrated travelogue depicting the pilgrimage of an Egyptian Jew during the 14th century of the land of Israel. We have more on this report. According to Dr. Rachel Safati, Chief Curator of Israel Museum's Wing for Jewish Art and Life, the travelogue documents religious sites through some 130 illustrations are written in Hebrew and are travelogues. Added that this was the only painted travelogue they know among Christian travelogues, Muslim travelogues, and Jewish travelogues, which makes it a unique manuscript, very special, and the only one with a story that tells people through illustrations, visual language, and non-textual language. The scroll is named after the city of Florence because it is housed in the National Central Library of Florence. According to the Israel Museum, this artifact is the second oldest document still in existence, offering such a detailed portrayal of the land of Israel. The illustrations range from Egypt to Lebanon, giving an insight into what the region looked like over 7 countries ago. The central part of the scroll, about 2 meters in length, portrays the Jewish holy site, Temple Mountain, which Muslims call the Haram el-Sharif, the noble sanctuary. The Golden Dome is built over the rock where Jews and Muslims believe biblical Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son Isaac in Muslim tradition. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, South African Airways announced last month that it had set a date, September 23rd, to resume operations. Now, true to its word, SAA, which relaunched yesterday after a year of inactivity and almost 8 months without a commercial flight. Now, the carrier initially offered flights from Johannesburg to Cape Town, Accra, Kinshasa, Harare, Lusaka, and Maputo. We have more.
South African Airways has not flown any commercial flights since March 2020 and ceased all cargo in repatriation flights in September last year. Interim CEO Thomas Gokolo said that after months of diligent work, they are delighted that South African Airways is resuming service and they look forward to welcoming on board their loyal passengers and flying the South African flag while adhering to COVID-19 protocols. Tickets went on sale on August 26th and have sold well according to the airline. According to interim CEO Gokolo, early figures indicate flights may be up to 75% full. Opening up other routes may prove to be a complication due to ongoing travel restrictions. Gokolo added that there is a profound feeling of enthusiasm within Team South African Airways as they took off, with one common purpose to rebuild and sustain a profitable airline that once again takes a leadership role among local, continental and international airlines. The airline hasn't operated any commercial flights since the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020. From that period until September 2020, the airline maintained cargo and repatriation flights, but was forced to cease all operations due to financial problems. After spending a period of 17 months in administration, South African Airways finally exited business rescue in April 2021 before the South African government agreed to sell its majority stake to Takaso Consortium in June.
Away from business, in our health news today, South Africa is seething over Britain's decision to keep the country on its coronavirus red list, a move that means travelers must pay for pricey hotel quarantine on their return to the UK. We have more. Renowned for its wildlife and breathtaking scenery, South Africa is struggling to recover from crippling blow coronavirus dealt to a tourism industry that directly accounts for 3% of the nation's economy and prior to the pandemic was one of the few employment bright spots, providing more than 700,000 jobs. Shut off from the rest of the world for most of 2020 and then blacklisted by several governments over the discovery of Beta variant, in December, South Africa is slowly starting to see a trickle of high-paying foreign visitors as infection rates fall. Travelers coming from Europe and the US, South Africa's biggest tourism markets, along with the UK, can currently holiday and then self-isolate at home upon return, a hassle that some are prepared to take. But the UK has kept South Africa on its red list of high-risk countries, meaning anyone arriving from South Africa is forced to quarantine in a hotel for 10 days, costing more than $2,400 per person. The stratospheric cost rules the country out for most British tourists. With more than 400,000 visitors a year in pre-pandemic times, the UK was South Africa's biggest source of long-haul travelers, especially during the Northern Hemisphere winter. Vaccinations, meanwhile, are picking up after a slow start, with around 20% of South African adults now fully jabbed. In our sports news today, the KCCA trio of Happy Sadat Anaku, Ashraf Mugume and Rogers Mato are the latest call-ups to the Uganda Cranes team ahead of the duel against Eastern Region Select. Take a look at the story.
Uganda Cranes head coach Milutin Micho-Srejovic has summoned 3 more players from Kampala Capital City Authority Football Club ahead of the regional tour engagement against Eastern Select at Mbale Municipal Stadium on Saturday. Forward Happy Sadat Anaku, Ashraf Mugume and Rogers Mato are the key latest additions to the team that departs Kampala on Friday morning. Micho made the confirmations after the team's only training session on Thursday at the Kavira Country Club, Bukoto. Gavin Kizito Mugweri, Vian Sekajugo, Cromwell Rothomia, Kenneth Semakula and Stephen Des Mkwala will not be part of the domestic trip to Mbale. Rothomia opted out for the personal reasons as he travelled back to Paida in Zombo district. The team is expected to train at the Mbale Municipal Stadium on Friday evening ahead of the Saturday's closed-door match that will be live on television.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, before we end our bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Security on the spot again over MP Sewanyana's rearrest. Madagascar president urges tougher action on climate change. And in our sports today, Metro summons 3 more KCCA players for Uganda Cranes duty. Thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.